What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Means we've got another week of golf talk here for you. Should be a fun week with the 3M Open in Minnesota this week. We'll break that down here over the next, say, 30 to 45 minutes. I'm Justin Van Zuiden. STL Cardinals 84 is the daily fantasy handle. Got Dylan Wilkerson alongside. He's joined us a few times here over the last month or so. Dylan, how you been?
I've been great. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, 3M Open this week. It's a bit of a letdown for the casual golf fan because all the majors are over. We have a couple weeks to plug until the playoff starts. But Justin, for guys like you and I, it's just getting started. We have some players here that have to play very well to earn their playoff spot. So I'm very excited. Really excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's crunch time for those that are on the line of the FedEx Cup playoffs, which start, I believe, 2 more events before that gets kicked off in a few weeks. They've changed that format over the last couple of years, so it's difficult to quantify, what the playoffs are going to look like. They had tried this nightmarish starting stroke thing at the championship event, which I think they've gotten rid of for this year. But the top 70, and it used to be like the top 125 or the top 150 got into the playoffs, but this year it's just the top 70. So the top 70 make the FedEx St. Jude, which is the first event. Then the top 50 move on to the BMW, and then the top 30 for the Tour Championship. So right now the cutoff is 70th in the standings. And to give you an idea of some players that are just above the cut line there, Benny On, Matty Schmid, Nikolai Højgaard, Keith Mitchell are the last 4 guys in right now. Emiliano Grillo, Davis Thompson, Eric Cole, and Alex Smalley are the first 4 guys out, with a couple of events to go. So you're going to see all those golfers that are kind of teetering on the line of making it or not making it. They're going to be in the fields the next couple weeks. The guys that are more secure, the top 20 or 30, you might not see those guys quite as much in these final couple of events. And so generally we have, what you would consider to be a weaker field this week. But we'll dig into that in just a minute. First, we'll take a quick look back at the Open Championship. Scotty Scheffler, fairly comfortable win. Got some distance between him and the field on Saturday. And at that point, I think he was leading the tournament in putting. And when Scheffler's leading a tournament in putting right now, it's pretty much game over. Cruised to a 4-shot win over Harris English. It was never really in doubt on Sunday. I don't think the lead ever got less than 4 throughout any of the round on Sunday. Chris Goddard, another strong finish, his second in a row. He finished solo 3rd. Haotong Li, Matt Fitzpatrick, Wyndham Clark tied 4th. Xander Schauffele, Robert McIntyre, and Rory finished tied for 7th at -10, and there was quite a few players at -9 as well, headlined by Corey Connors and Russell Henley. So pretty good week of golf, but boy, Scheffler just proved basically that when he brings his A game, it's basically nobody's going to beat him right now.
A lot of comparisons to Tiger this week. I know it's way too early to tell, but it does feel like when he gets going, there's no catching it. I even think it was Haotong Li that said after the 3rd round, he's like, I know we're all kind of just playing for second out here. And like you said, if Scotty is just an average putter on any given weekend, it's game over for the rest of the field. So we're witnessing something very special now. Is it going to be Jordan Spieth 14-16, or is it going to be Tiger Woods 99 to insert a year here? That's what I'm interested to see. But great tournament. Goddard kind of making a name for himself overseas. He might just move to Scotland. That guy plays some of the best golf over there, which was great to see. I'm a Goddard fan. So
yeah, and I am too. I've kind of been on him in DFS since the beginning when he was the up and comer that was supposed to take the tour by storm, and bet him outright in 3 of the last 4 events before they went over to Scotland. Then, of course, he wins the tournament when I wasn't on him at all. Didn't expect him to play that well on a link style courses, but totally proved me wrong. Happy to see him playing well. I just wish, he could have gotten that win one of the weeks that, I was on him at 60-1 or something like that, as opposed to the Scottish Open. But those are the breaks, right?
Yeah, well, while we're lambasting in losses, last at the Open, I had Bryson to miss the cut. I chalked it up as a win after round 1. He goes out and shoots 7 under the second day. Oh, my gosh. That was my one qualm with the Open, was that bet right there. But, yeah, great.
And if he doesn't shoot that 78, or whatever it was. I think it was 78 the first round.
Oh, yeah.
If he shoots even par the first round, he's in the mix. So
yeah, completely different tournament. And I had it chalked up. Oh, he's no way he's coming back from this. And Bryson did what Bryson does and shoots some insane number round 2. But what can you do?
Course did play pretty easy, relatively speaking, over the weekend. It was actually sunny both of those days. I didn't think that happened in Scotland and Northern Ireland and those places. It's just always rainy and cloudy for the Open every year. I can't imagine living there. Like, I'm the type of person that my mood is very in the dumps when I don't see the sun for like 8 days. And every year when I watch this tournament, it's like cloudy and rainy. Kudos to those of you who can, enjoy Scotland, and not that the country isn't great, but just weather-wise, I need sunshine, and I get crabby when I don't have any sunshine. So I don't think I could do that full time. But it was nice to see the sun on the course the last couple rounds. We just don't see that very often for the Open.
I was going to say, not to mention, you're watching the Drury golf on TV. You have to get up at 3 a.m. to watch the golf anyway, so it's dark where you're watching it. It's like it compounds on each other. But right. Yeah, very good tournament.
So that was the Open Championship. Kudos to Scheffler for pulling off yet another victory. He's not in the field this week, so everybody's got a chance because Scheffler's not in there. So maybe that'll make it a more exciting week. Who knows? We'll see how this. I think it's a wide open tournament this week. Not a ton of surprises, I guess, as far as miscuts last week. I think Patrick Cantlay was probably the biggest name. Ben Griffin as well, after having a pretty good summer, didn't make the weekend. Patrick Reed, a lot of people like to kind of target him for majors. He missed the cut, but otherwise, most of the bigger names did make it to the weekend and made for a pretty nice leaderboard there at the end of the tournament. So, all right. So with that, let's turn our attention to this week's event, which is the 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities. It's up in Minneapolis. This course started hosting in 2019. And to go to show that, we kind of have some weaker fields here. Your winners ever since this event has started. Matthew Wolff, if you remember that name. Matthew Wolff made waves on the PGA Tour for a while. He was the winner back in 2019. Michael Thompson, Cam Champ, Tony Finau, Lee Hodges, and Johnny Vegas. So those are the winners of this tournament. The winning score has been 15 under or better every time. Course is pretty gettable. So before we dig into the field, what do we need to know about the course this week?
Yeah, very interesting course. Not a bomber's paradise by any means. I think it rewards accuracy off of the tee more than anything else. Sharp game around the greens. Just looking at a satellite overview of the course, it really looks like that there is going to be creativity and strict decision-making off of the tees rather than just taking driver and letting it go. A lot of dog legs. Past the fairway, you have a bunker, so you can't just blast it. The par fives, very gettable. They play very easy. I looked last year. They played not crazy for par fives, but they all played under par, scored very well on them. Longer, 580, 590 yards, but players scored very well. So kind of what I'm going to be looking for a player to succeed at this course, someone that can hit the fairways, keep the ball in play, strong around the green. And I think maybe average putter. I don't think you need to put the lights out at this course to succeed. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in a player profile for the 3M Open this week.
It was pretty windy here last year, so the scoring maybe wasn't quite as gettable as what we usually see. The forecast looks pretty good for this week, other than you can always get some summertime storms popping up in the Midwest, but seems like it's not supposed to be super windy, and I would imagine we'll get back into that 20 under range, 20 to 22 under probably for a winning score. All right, let's go ahead and start digging into the player pool here. And again, I think this week is about as wide open as it gets. Maybe it's just because Scheffler's not in there. It just seems like, okay, well, we don't have Scheffler at plus 250 or whatever. So it's pretty wide open. But nobody right now on DraftKings with better than 18-1 odds to win. Goddard and Burns are at 18-1. Everybody else is at 20-1 or higher. So, when the favored golfer is only at 18-1, that goes to show that it's a pretty much a wide open tournament at the top. I think that's what we're going to see this week. Should be pretty entertaining. As far as the DFS pricing goes, we've got 3 golfers above that 10K mark with Sam Burns, McNeely, and Goddard, who we've already talked about a little bit, coming off a hot couple of weeks. All of them we have in the 20 to 30% ownership range projected in DFS. So let's just talk about that top trio there: Burns, McNeely, Goddard. How are you handling those guys this week?
Yeah, very interesting trio. I'll just say it's nice to not see $14,000 at the top of this player pool for once, especially for once since I've been on the show. But yeah, very interesting mix here. In my opinion, I do think it's Burns and McNeely as the 2 best players that are in the field. Burns just puts the ball lights out. That's always going to work to his advantage. Decent course history, T12, T32, and T7 in the 3 years that he's played at this event. He has positive strokes gained in his last 11 events. He's in great form. And I'm definitely going to own probably a lot of Burns, some to a lot of Burns. He's only had negative strokes gained putting twice this year. And I think that just goes to speak to how consistent he is with the flat stick. And then moving on to Maverick McNeely, I actually like him too. He's played well at this track, T3, T49, T16. And he's gained a stroke and a half or more in his last 5 events. It really seems he turned a corner since beginning of June, late May. So Burns and McNeely, I'm going to own a lot of, but I am fading Goddard this week. And it pains me because just like you said, he's a guy that since the beginning of the year I've kind of been on, hits the ball a mile. I don't think it's going to be the fit for the course this week. He had a great 2-week run on some links or hybrid links type courses, speaking to the Genesis Scottish Open 2 weeks ago. But Goddard is not going to be in my pool very much. I'm going to go more McNeely and Burns. But how are you feeling about Goddard? Because I know you said you've been on him all year.
Yeah, well, I just think, this is the spot for a little bit of a letdown, I think. You had a win and a 3rd place finish across the country, travel back, probably had some celebrations at home, when you got back. And I like him a lot generally, but this just feels like the spot where, maybe you coast your way to a T40 or, you just kind of lose focus a little bit. And it's not to say he can't play well and make me have egg on my face, but I just think I'm out this week. McNeely is my favorite. And then Burns, but it's close between those 2. Just question whether or not, Goddard's got the gas left in the tank after those 2 really interesting weeks.
It also seems like with Goddard, in my personal opinion, if, we've both been on this guy since the beginning of the year. I remember getting him at 6-7K, and now obviously he's playing great golf right now. I don't want to say the 10K price tag is unwarranted in this field, but it does seem like a bit of seems like a very big jump from where we were just weeks ago with regards to him. So it almost seems like you're paying a premium for a little bit of recency bias with Goddard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really big price tag. And, if he can keep the driver straight, and he certainly can be an advantage on this course. There is quite a bit of water, but it's, you got to really miss to be in extreme danger. But I just don't know if this is the spot after those last couple weeks. He's going to be somewhat popular. I would prefer the other 2 above that 10K mark. All right, let's move down into the 9K range. We've got more options in here. Again, this is a weaker field, so it's all relative with the strength of the field. Almost the entire rest of the field is going to feel overpriced just because we're used to seeing these guys in, the 7Ks from the stronger field events. Now they're in the 9Ks in these weaker field events, but you've got Wyndham Clark here at 9,800. Ricky Fowler at 9,500. I think this is the most expensive that I've seen Ricky Fowler in years. He has been playing better, but I was shocked to see him at 9.5K. I don't think I can do that 9,500 for Fowler this week, but again, I haven't been on Fowler as much as some others kind of throughout his entire career, but in any case, he's there at 9,500 if you want him. Pendrith, Grazerman, Siwoo Kim, Tony Finau, Sung J M. That's your 9K group. And again, they all kind of feel overpriced, and that generally has me just wanting to go down into the next tier a little bit. I don't mind some of these guys, but my main, kind of hot take, maybe not necessarily hot take, but my take from this range is that I just can't play Fowler at 9,500. So your thoughts here on the 9Ks?
We're in lockstep. I have my notes here, and I don't have anybody that really stood out to me in this 9K range. I do want to talk about the Fowler thing for a second. Very interesting. Just quietly, tied for 14th at the Open. Put together a couple pretty decent events, which I've been a Ricky Fowler fan since I was in high school when he was wearing those flat bills and looked like a traffic cone on Sundays. So it's great to see him playing a little bit better golf. But yeah, I was shocked to see him up at the 9K range. If I had to take anybody within this range, and I'm not going to be taking a lot, I would say maybe Taylor Pendrith, and he's not even that great of a course fit, but he's just had success at this course before. But like I said, not a great course fit. Wouldn't do Grazerman. Finau's had success here too, but he's in awful form. He's not playing great golf.
That's Finau is the ultimate dynamic between course history and recent form. Like if you look at the last 5 years of this event, Finau's finished 12th, 7th. He's got a victory in 22, 28th, and a 3rd. So if I sort this field by total strokes gained over the last 5 years, Finau is 50 strokes above field average. The next closest is 35 strokes above field average. So, I mean, if you're just a course history buff, then Finau's your guy. But, it's been a while since we've seen a whole lot of positive out of him.
It feels like it. And that's another guy that I like to root for, but it's tough when the flat stick's not going too. He's had trouble with that. Hits the ball mile. But yeah, I would say if you want anything in this range, Finau, Pendrith, Kim is a decent fit, but I was not pleased with this 9K range at all when I was taking a look at it.
Yeah, it didn't grab me, and again, because they have to fill, all the different pricing tiers, they, put guys in here to fill up each of the pricing slots, but they don't have that much better odds than some of the others. I mean, Pendrith is 30-1, Grazerman is 28-1, Fowler is 40-1, and let's see, Sungjae is even further down. He's 50-1. And then there's guys in the 8Ks that are 35-1, 45-1. So it just, the 9K range, kind of a dead zone for me. I agree that Pendrith is a strong play if you want to take somebody in there. And I know Notorious likes him this week too, with the 7 cuts made in a row before he missed the cut at the Open. Wyndham Clark, I think, is okay for tournaments. He hasn't played here the last couple years, did make the cut in 2022. But if you're looking at the longer term stats, the approach numbers are a little bit frightening. Siwoo Kim's okay, but neither of us really have a whole lot of conviction on this 9K range. I think you just sprinkle in a guy or two, but if you're playing like a single entry lineup, you're probably starting with one of those 3 guys at the very top and then moving down in the 8s for maybe a couple of options, as there's a lot of, I think, more interesting plays on a points per dollar basis in this 8K range. You've got, I believe, one golfer. It's interesting how DraftKings does this, but one golfer at every single price level between 81 and 8,900. So there's Knapp at 89, Thompson at 88, Kitayama, Mitchell, Thorbjornsen, Grillo, who's on that playoff bubble that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Max Homa, Adam Scott, Luke Clanton, and then Kevin Yu and Akshay are both at 8K exactly, and you get a discount down from those 9K options that we don't like a whole lot. So I'll let you go first here. What's your thoughts on the 8Ks?
Yeah, the 8K range much more attractive in my opinion than the 9K range. There's a few viable options here, and I'll start with Michael Thorbjornsen. He missed the cut here actually last year, but there's no doubt that he's just such a better golfer than he was last year. Young guy, one of the best drivers, drives the ball long without having to sacrifice the accuracy. In terms of driving accuracy, he's about the average PGA Tour level, which at this course we'll take if you can, be a standard deviation or so above the field in driving length, then that works. Like I said, 6th in strokes gained off the tee, 2nd in total driving. This guy just really takes care of the ball off the tee without having to sacrifice the accuracy. So Thor Bjornsson is one that I'm going to be playing. You had mentioned Griot, which is another interesting one because he is on that teetering point of the playoffs, like you said. Not that these guys need extra motivation, but it's definitely there for a guy like him. He has a great course fit, good history. If I remember correctly, T24 last year, this tournament, then a T10, tied for 2nd in 2022. He did miss the cut in 2021. And then in 2020, he finished T3. So he knows his way around the track, and he's put up pretty good putting numbers, pretty good numbers off the tee at this event previously. 17th in overall driving accuracy. I think Griot is going to be a very viable option in this 8K range as well. And then I'll wrap it up with one of my guys, Kevin Yu. He kind of led me astray at the Open, shot the, I think, 6 or 7 over, followed it up with a 5 under, maybe it was 8 over, and ended up missing the cut, but he put together that beautiful second round. He did make cuts in 4 of his last 5 events. I actually did write it down. It was +8, then 8 over, then 5 under at the Open. But he's made the cut twice here, and both times he's played. And his finishing results, T73, T37. But Kevin Yu is a guy that I've been on all year. Good off the tee, decent all-around player. If it just wasn't for that 8 over round, he would have had a pretty good showing at the Open, I think. So, for this range, Thor Bjornsson, Griot, and Yu are the 3 that I'm going to be going with. But what about you, Justin? What do you like out of this range?
Yeah, I tagged Thor Bjornsson in my content this week, and he's easy to scroll past. You just look on DraftKings and you see, oh, he's only made 10 out of 17 cuts. This guy's too expensive, but had a really rough start to the year. If you isolate the last 6 or 7 events, he's been playing really, really solid golf and has the upside, I think, in a shootout to contend. So Thor Bjornsson is my number 1 guy. Did miss the cut his only previous trip here, but like you mentioned, he's just playing better golf right now. So he's probably my number 1 in this range, along with Jake Knapp. And I think Knapp, if you look at last year, you might be a little bit worried because Knapp shot like an 81 in the 3rd round. But what happened was Knapp made the cut, was dealing with an injury, shoulder, I think. I can't remember exactly what he hurt, but he was dealing with an injury in the 3rd round, limped his way around and finished it out and shot a 81 and then withdrew. Just keep that off the radar. He got injured and didn't finish the tournament. I mean, no harm, no foul on my end with Knapp withdrawing last year. It was a legitimate injury. It's not like he was just playing bad and decided to take his ball and go home. A guy that we've seen when he tends to play well, it's in these courses where you can make a lot of birdies. If I look at last 36 rounds, he's 7th in total strokes gained in this field, 19th off the tee, 14th in putting. So has had a good short game as well. And at 8,900, people might see last year's and get a little bit concerned. But Knapp and Thor Bjornsson are my favorite 2 in this range. I like the Kevin Yu call as well. And then Griot would probably be the 4th guy. So I'll probably have 4 guys out of the 8 or 9 in here in my player pool this week. And that's probably the 4. Knapp, Thor Bjornsson, Griot, Kevin Yu.
Any thoughts on Akshay Bhatia in this range? I was kind of going back and
never
forth.
get him. I never get him right. So if you want to play him, just tell me not to play him, and then you'll be golden.
We all have our guys like that, right?
That's
Justin?
Right. Yes, Akshay is mine. It's hard. It's always hard for me to figure out, when and where he's going to play well, and obviously I don't do a very good job at it because I continually get him wrong. But maybe he's just one of those unpredictable guys. But again, I had those 36 round filters up here. He is 2nd in this field in approach over the last 36 rounds. So the irons have been dialed in. Everything else has been a little suspect, but the irons have been okay. So if you're playing the ball strikers this week, that's an encouraging sign at least.
Nice.
All right, let's go ahead and maneuver our way down into the 7Ks. And again, there's so many golfers in here that we usually split this up into two. So let's talk about the upper half of the 7K range. We got Haotong Li getting in the field with that top 10 finish last week. So kudos to him coming over and playing in the States right after a top 5 finish at the Open. Cam Champ in here, Rico Hoey, Alex Smalley. Again, those are guys that are right on the playoff cut line. Lee Hodges, former champ here. Pearson Cootie. You got a Sam Stevens in the upper part of the 7K range. Who's standing out to you in here?
Yeah, this upper 7K range is interesting. The number one guy that I like out of this range is Rico Huey, another guy that drives the ball very well. The dude just he just can't putt. And I feel like I've came on this show and said it before. He is not a good putter, but he's coming off of 3 straight made cuts. He's 3rd in strokes gained off the tee and 26th in the approach game, strokes gained approach. 13th in driving accuracy. So he's another one of those guys like Thor Bjornsson that hits the ball decently far without sacrificing accuracy. Honestly, probably a little bit more accurate than Thor Bjornsson. This is another guy I just can't quit. I can't quit Rico Huey when he's playing in these events. You just have to hope for an average putting performance. If you can get an average putting performance out of Rico Huey, you're going to have a decent showing. So he's my number one guy. And if I had to go someone else, I would kind of look at Cameron Champ, which is interesting because he's won here before, but he's kind of the antithesis of the course fit for TPC Twin Cities. He hits the ball very far off the tee. Accuracy isn't bad. It's a little bit lower than tour average. But if we're looking at this upper echelon of the 7K range, Rico Huey is my number one option. I'd maybe look at Cameron Champ, but there's nothing else here that interests me. Definitely not playing Tigala. After coming back from the neck injury, misses the cut at the Open. I don't know if he's 100% healthy. I think there's a lot of question marks there. So there's someone that I'm definitely not going to be playing is Sahith Tigala this week.
Yeah, I'm probably on the same page there. A couple guys at the bottom part of this 7,500-ish range, around basically the same price as Tigala there. Sam Stevens at 7.5K and Bridgman at 7.5K. A couple guys that I will include in my player pool. Stevens just having a really steady year. He played over at the Scottish a couple weeks ago, but he's not the prototypical Lynx style guy. Doesn't bother me at all that he didn't play well over there. Didn't play last week, so he got the rest to come back and get ready for this event. Finished T10 here a couple of years ago. Bridgman finished top 20 here last year as well. So those are a couple guys you can consider in that $7,500 price range, in addition to Huey and Smalley, I think, in that range. Smalley, I remember, let me pull back up that playoff. Oh, I must have closed. Nope, there it is. Smalley is, I know he's in here somewhere. Yeah, he's 74th. So Smalley's going to need to have one big week these next couple if he wants to leapfrog a few guys and get into that playoff chase. Got pretty good stats all around as well. Let's see where he came in. So that overall model that I put my filters on this week over at Betsperts Golf, I've got Stevens comes out 13th overall. Bridgman comes out 25th overall. And then Smalley comes out 15th. So those guys, I think, are all pretty solid plays in that range. If you're looking to maybe go with the two expensive guys up top, you can get a couple of those guys down here to help start rounding out your lineups, because it does thin out as usual particularly once we get into the sixes. Maybe a few more options in the lower part of the 7K range. It's just not super exciting. So your thoughts on the rest of the 7Ks here?
Yeah, there are a couple guys I actually really like that I was kind of shocked to see they were priced this low. I'm going to mess up the name. Christian Bezuidenhout.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Close enough. We'll take it. But this is a guy that, this course almost feels like it's kind of made for him. He's not very long off the tee at all. Very accurate off the tee, putts well. He has that playoff implications like Griot, where I think he's 75th in the FedEx rankings right now. You got to get into that top 70. 14th in strokes gained putting, great around the green. It really seems like 7,200 is a discount for someone with Christian's skill set. So he's one in this range that I really like. And then this last one, I was shocked to see that he was 7,000. Andrew Putnam, 38th in approach, 15th in strokes gained putting, 6th in driving accuracy. The guy is accurate off the tee, stellar around the greens, and the last 2 times he's played in this event, 2022 and 2024, he's finished in the top 20. Scrambles like no other. He's 3rd in scrambling rate. It seems like this is kind of the option when you get to the lower portion of this 7K range. So Bezuidenhout, Putnam, those are my 2 guys at the bottom of this to round out my lineups.
Another interesting, if you want to play the course history angle here, I mentioned Finau with almost 50 strokes gained over field average here the last 5 years. The next guy is actually Cameron Davis, who has just been in terrible form. I am not doing this. But Cameron Davis has top 30s here each of the last 5 years, 4 top 20s. He is 67th in the playoff standings right now, so he needs a good result or two himself. But there was an event, I can't remember which one. There was another event, one of the ones maybe a month or so ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago, that Davis had similar course history and he finished near the bottom. So I can't play him in DFS right now. If you want to play the course history angle, I'd probably take a shot on one of the bad putters like a Doug Gim or something here. Or a Schmid, who's also in that standings bubble there at 68th. Those are the guys that I like in this range. And another one, if you have been playing DFS golf for any length of time, you may remember the first time that Erik van Rooyen ever played here. He was all the rage, man. Everybody wanted to play Erik van Rooyen because of one nugget. And that nugget was he went to college at the University of Minnesota, so he knows the Midwest. Not a lot of golfers up in Minnesota, but Erik van Rooyen went to college at Minnesota, and then he promptly missed the cut. I can't remember what he was that year, but it must have been like 25% owned because this tournament has a terrible field, and everyone's like, oh, Erik van Rooyen went to college in Minnesota. I'm going to play him. He missed the cut, and then he finished like 58th, and then he missed the cut again twice. So he's only 1 for 4 here. So that narrative of him going to college at Minnesota has kind of run its course. So now's the spot I think you could play Erik van Rooyen. Nobody's playing him. He still went to college in Minnesota, even though the results haven't been there. And if you followed the alternate field event last week, he finished 2nd. So at least showing some signs of life last week in that, admittedly weaker field alternate event. In the States, but it's a weak field event this week too. So I think you could do crazier things than Erik van Rooyen at 7,200. Kevin Roy is another guy that looks pretty good based on my statistical weightings this week. So those are my 2 guys that I like in the lower part, and Putnam, who you talked about as well, I think is a strong play. So those 3, Putnam, EVR, and Kevin Roy at the lower part of the 7K range. And I'm going to try to kind of cut off my exposure there. It gets a little dicey in the 6Ks this week. I don't find anybody that looks like an absolute have to have just because this field is so weak. Nobody that's really grading out fantastic in our projections. Maybe a Chan Kim or a Max McGreevy, but those guys are at 6.9K, so it's not like you're getting huge discounts there either. And on a week where, it's not like we're trying to fit in a 13K guy at the top. The most expensive guys are in the 10s. And if you start your roster with a 10-5 Sam Burns, you still have a lot more salary than the last few weeks when we were starting with a 13K Rory or a 14K Scotty. So don't find myself going into the 6s a whole lot. Is there anything you like on the rest of the board here?
Yeah, Justin, I would be lying if I said I didn't put together a Burns, McNeely, and then threw in Zach Johnson. Just slip Zach Johnson in that lineup right at the end. No, there's a few guys. I think, obviously, when you get down here, the options are so few and far between. No one's going to check all of the boxes. But Bryce Garnett was a guy that I had in there, not in best form. He has 4 straight missed cuts, but he's very accurate. He is a decent fit for this course. Like I said, Zach Johnson, we know he doesn't have the length off the tee anymore, but he's still fairly accurate. And then this one's kind of gross. I wrote down Aaron Baddeley. He's played awful this season, but hasn't missed a cut in 5 appearances at this event. So if you're looking for a super cheap option and you're a big course history buff, that's an option for you. You can click his name.
Yep, he's 7th or 8th on this overall strokes gained total over the last 5 years at this event at the minimum 6K. So again, don't go crazy with that. If you're just building a single entry lineup, you probably want to stick to those golfers at 7K ish at the lowest point. So, all right, doesn't take us too long to get through with a pretty weak field this for this tournament. No surprise the week after a major, so we'll call it a wrap here. We'll be back next week with the Wyndham Championship. I believe Noto is back next week from his paternity break, so we'll have Noto back in the fold, I believe, next week. The last event before the FedEx Cup playoffs with the FedEx St. Jude, and then the BMW, and then the Tour Championship taking over the month of August before we get to Ryder Cup time. So fun time of year on the golf calendar, even though all the majors are over. And with that, we'll put a bow on it for tonight. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes as always for us. And Dylan, thanks for hopping on again. Appreciate your help.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Justin. Anytime. It's been great.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure talking to y'all. Hit that like button on the YouTube stream, even if you're watching us on playback. I know a lot of you watch this after the fact, which is fine. Got plenty of time until Thursday morning, but hit that like button for us so it stays in the old YouTube stats, and we do appreciate that. So for Dylan, for Steve, producing behind the scenes for us, I'm Justin. Have a great week, everybody. We'll catch you later.